Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Good show for you today. As always, we got a lot to talk about. And of course, Shannon Snell is going to join us, former Gator All-American, current pitmaster. I love talking to Shannon about everything. And then Coach Spurrier will be with us back again on Monday in studio. And then I think Laura Rutledge is going to be able to do next Thursday, barring vacations and sickness. I mean, boy, I'm hitting her at the wrong times, but I figure here's a good time to get her because she is so busy when you get to football season. But we'll talk to her about a lot of football. Let us right now go to our Process Service of Gainesville starting five, brought to you by Process Service of Gainesville and Scott Hart. And we appreciate Scott for being a great sponsor. Let us get to number one. And that, and the way I do this is I try to go the biggest stories. And look, to be honest with you, softball losing is a bigger story than baseball still playing, because of how far softball went. But the number one story right now for all of us, because softball lost a couple of days ago, is baseball going to Clemson and to play in a super regional there after what happened in Oklahoma State. I can't remember the name. Stillwater, the 10th biggest city in the state of Oklahoma. By the way, Clemson is number 35 in the state of South Carolina. Think about that. South Carolina is not known for its big cities, but they're the number 35. That is a small town. This is a really good team that obviously it's kind of funny because we would talk about this all the time, how, Florida wants to be the everything school, wants to be good at everything, wants to be good at softball, wants to be good at women's golf, wants to be good at football. And that Clemson kind of had this approach of, we only want to be good at football. And that's where they kind of put all their money. And now you got a coach who doesn't believe in NIL or portal. I don't even know what's going to happen with that program. And baseball had been in the doldrums. And that I remember the first College World Series that I went to in Rosenblatt was in '96. And Billy Koch and God, who was the other pitcher that pitched for them? They had two stud pitchers. I can't think of his name right now. But they had a really good team, and they went 2 and through. They were 2 and out. That's just what postseason like. That's the thing. It is so hard to win a national championship in any sport. It's getting a little easier, I think, for football, but easier than what it was. But I mean, well, what do you say? 64 teams in baseball. I mean, you should be that hard? Yeah, well, it is. And that's the question I have, I guess, is football going to be easier this year or harder? Because it's easier in this way in that you have fewer teams or more teams that are going to get in. So it gives more opportunity. But the more you expand, the harder it always seems to win. Now, again, what Oklahoma is doing in softball is generational. I mean, they've got a lot of seniors on the team, and they've done some amazing things. I mean, you saw what happened. Jocelyn Erickson comes here because she can't win the job there and ends up being the SEC Player of the Year. It's pretty amazing. But anyway, that's a story for for segment number 2 is when it is. But just a quick scouting report on Clemson. They're hitting 299 as a team, a lot of home runs, 103 this year. Second in the ACC in pitching. So they've got a really good team. They are last in fielding. Now, that may just be a fluky, or they had a guy, and I didn't really delve that deep into it. I'll leave that to Jeff Cardozo when he's doing the game Saturday. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, look, this team has already exceeded my expectations, but not my preseason expectations. My preseason expectations were they were going to be really good and be hosting regionals and stuff like that. But we saw this team, and we saw them go out in the first game against Vanderbilt at the SEC tournament, and it's kind of hard to get. Like you don't want to put too much into it. You just want to root for your home team, as they say in the song. And it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. we'll see that a little bit too. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, the coaches were on staffs together. They know each other. There's a lot of connections here. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. I wish we didn't have to wait till Saturday, but I think the rest is going to do good for Cags, especially because I would guess he'll be the Sunday pitcher, and he'll have had some time off. But he had time off between the SEC championship and the regional game he started in Stillwater, and wasn't very effective to me, and gave up all those home runs early. So anyway, we'll see what happens. And that's what it is. It's unscripted. All right, let's get to number 2 in our process service of games. We'll starting 5, and that will be that softball. Of course, softball was playing while we were doing, or they were supposed to be playing while we were doing the podcast Monday. Then that game got pushed back. As a result, Florida won, and then the next game got pushed back to the next day, and then Tuesday. Yeah, it's really heartbreaking. This team played so well. I was so proud of them. Picked 8th in the conference, ended up winning the conference tournament championship, getting all the way within one game of playing for the national championship. I thought they had it at 5-2, but I mean, I'm the kind of guy that there is no lead that's big enough in any sport. I've seen too many comebacks. It's just I'm old. I'm old, so I've seen a lot. I was there when JU, this is the watermark I use for basketball. JU was playing Charlotte, and they were down 9 with 51 seconds to go, and JU came back and won. This was the James Ray team back then. So anyway, the point is, so I don't believe, like I've seen teams come back from 8-0 down in baseball. I've seen teams come back. So 5-2 up in softball is nothing. It used to be something. And back in the days when pitchers dominated, but they don't dominate the way they used to. But congratulations to Florida for a great season. The best part is, even though you lose Skylar Wallace, and Skylar Wallace was an unbelievable player at Florida. Florida was very fortunate to get her, an unbelievable person. If you didn't see the press conferences, you can go find them on Google after they lost, and her tears and saying how much she loved going to Florida, and it was the best thing that ever happened in her life. It was just good advertising for Florida. But it goes back to what I talk about all the time, and that is the deeper you go in a tournament, the harder it is. Like losing the first round, you would think would be the hardest thing in the world, because you lost in the first round. We got all the way here, and that's it. We were here for. I remember going to Raleigh, and Florida was playing the first game, and they were the first team eliminated. Not just the first day of the tournament; they were the first team eliminated. Was it Manhattan? I think that year. And next thing you know, I'm back in my hotel room writing, because it was an early game. And I said, "Oh, I might as well make my reservations to go home." And I hate that. So you don't want that, but the deeper you go, the more it's going to hurt when you lose, because you can see the trophy, you can see the championship, you can see the confetti when you get to the point that Florida did. Just when you get to the College World Series, I think. And I think for Florida, the way they were playing at the end of the year, even more so, because they were sitting there and they had just slugged Oklahoma. They knocked Alabama out of the tournament, and then they slugged Oklahoma out of the tournament. And Oklahoma had not lost in 20 straight NCAA tournament games. So very impressive, very impressive. Again, they've got 7 starters coming back next year. 7 starters. So they lose Skylar Wallace and Katie Kistler, but the other 7 starters are coming back. I mean, we know that there are a lot of freshmen down there at the bottom of the order, and freshman pitchers are all coming back. And they're going to hit the portal again, and they're going to go after. And look, all that time you're playing on TV, you are recruiting. Even though you don't have to recruit, you don't have to do it physically, but they're seeing you, and they're seeing how much you enjoy it, and they're seeing the wedgies on home runs. They want their parents to be able to be out in Oklahoma and get a ball when you hit a home run, which is cool that they do that. So anyway, congratulations to a great year. And look, I feel like Florida had a little bit of a lull last year, and that's why maybe people were down on them in softball. And Tim Walton struck back with a vengeance. Um, did really well in the portal, Corbiotis, and of course Jocelyn Erickson among them, and will do so again. Florida softball is right back where it should be, going to Oklahoma City every year and doing great things. So congratulations to them. Let's go to number 3, which is a story that I always say this. There's 2 things that I say when a story pops up. One is, oh no, because that means somebody just passed away. And it's usually somebody that I had strong feelings about. Or wow. And that's what I had, a wow moment today when I open up my computer and I see that the Lakers are courting Billy Hurley to come to their school, or Danny Hurley, I should say. They may be courting Billy Hurley too, Danny Hurley. And I made fun of a guy on TV, or actually on national radio, for confusing that, but he never got off of it. He stayed with the Billy Hurley thing. Now, Danny Hurley, of course, back-to-back national champions at UConn, did not have any interest in any of these college jobs. But this, in fact, I got a text from Ken Hesser a little while ago saying this feels like Billy going to Orlando, which is exactly right, because Billy won 2 in a row, went to Orlando. If Hurley takes his job, he's not coming back, though. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, they're offering a lot. I thought J.J. Redick had that thing sewed up. And I think that's who LeBron wants. But maybe LeBron wants to go somewhere else. Whoever drafts Bronny, that's a whole dynamic I don't want to get into right now. But that's going to be good. And it's also, I do want to mention this. It is so much fun now to watch Udonis Haslem on television. Udonis, of course, one of my favorite players of all time at Florida, and just retired, and now he's on TV, and I see him everywhere. I see him on First Take and all those shows. Not that I'm a big NBA fan or a big fan of some of the ESPN programming, but I like UD, man. I love having him on. Maybe we'll get him on. Maybe I can get him on. He's one of my favorites. I don't know that we've ever had a long conversation about that 2000 team and how close they were. I mean, he was great I remember going into it, he was great. I remember somebody coming from the press conference, and I had missed his press conference because I was doing something else. And he had given the analogy that it was like they were dead on the table. And all of a sudden, he was talking about the Mike Miller shot against Butler in the first round, and then they put the paddles on and shocked Florida back to life, and now they're living the life, their great life now. And they really thought they were going to win that last game. And because I remember Donald Harvey breaking things in the locker room. Anyway, that's the cool thing in the NCAA tournament. You get to go in the locker rooms. You get all this time you sometimes come up with more notes than you have story ideas. So, all right, that was number 3 on our process service of Gainesville. Starting 5, number 4, the college football playoff times and dates are announced. They're going to go head to head with the NFL. There's no choice, really. The NFL there'll be 2 games on that Saturday, but those are regular season games. And but playoff games on campus. I think the ratings are going to, the NFL's king. Don't even deny it. The NFL is the king, not the king in Gainesville, but it's the king as far as ratings go. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. But we'll start on the 20th, man. I'm ready to go. I hope I'd love to see Florida in it. It'll make it a lot more fun. I'd love to see Florida play another game here in the swamp, that would be something. A playoff game against, just to throw a school out there, USC in the swamp. Oh, we could bring up the Wilbur Marshall game again. Absolutely. But anyway, they're all announced, and we know what it's going to look like. And again, don't know what football is going to look like in 10 years. But we know what the championships are going to look like this year. And so I know they're all happy. In fact, they lease. It's so funny how they do this. So ESPN has the rights, but they lease it out, like some games out to TBS, which is pretty smart, really, because they're going to make money off of that and not have to spend as much money. But anyway, believe me, there's plenty of money to go around. Let us get to number 5 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5. ESPN today came out with their power index for the toughest schedules. And no big surprise that Florida's number 1 in toughest schedule. Florida is number 1 in toughest schedule. There's no question. At the end of the year, we may look back and go, it wasn't that tough. Look, you're opening up with Miami. UCF's a dangerous team. You close with FSU, and you got 8 really tough conference games. And they pointed out in this thing that Missouri had the easiest schedule. We've talked about that before. But the interesting thing to me was that this ESPN power rating, of the top 10 schools in hardest schedules, 9 of them were from the SEC. Now, when you see that, you kind of go, well, you're obviously giving greater value to SEC teams than you are, say, Big Ten teams. And I think that is the difference. Look, the Big Ten's I don't think it has the depth the SEC does. You get down to some really bad clubs. But it's going to be interesting to see. The only school that is not in the top, that's in the top 10 that does not have, or let's try saying that with English this time. The only school that's in the top 10 and the hardest schedules that is not in the SEC is Georgia Tech, of all teams. Poor guys. Well, they've got Georgia, and I guess that's a factor. I don't know who. They got FSU, I think, early, right? Is that the game in Ireland this year? Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, look, something you already knew, Florida's got the toughest schedule. But as I talked about before, it's not as tough as people think. You got 7 home games, going to be just fine. If you got a good enough team, you're going to be good enough to win. And I think this team could win 9 games. And if they win 9 games with that schedule, I think they're in. I think they're in the playoff. You think about it, and I wrote about this for my previous employer, Gator's Wire. But let's just say Florida goes 9-3. Okay, pick any 3 games you want that Florida could lose, and I'll show you the 9 wins, and you'll go, oh yeah, they're probably in. Because you could say, okay, they'll lose at Texas, they'll lose to Georgia, they'll lose at FSU. Let's just say you pick those games. Now that would be bad because it'd be all back-ended, and that might hurt them a little bit. But that would mean you won. You beat Tennessee. You beat Kentucky. You beat LSU. You beat Arkansas. You beat Miami. I mean, you would have so many quad 1 wins, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right. That's going to do it for our process service of Gainesville starting 5. Appreciate Scott Hart and the people over there. And we will be right back with our special guest when we return on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FATS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
All All right, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. It's a great pleasure to bring on the pitmaster, and he also was a pretty good football player too. Shannon Snell joining us right now. Shannon, how you been?
Been doing well, Pat. Obviously, got a lot going on. Became the head pitmaster for all of Sonny's. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot going on. So just kind of getting revved up for football season, which is coming pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I know you do a lot of work around our community, and you did a lot during the pandemic, and we talked about that, and Thanksgiving, and you do all that kind of stuff. But you also feed those football players sometimes too, right?
I do. Yeah, it's fun because I know when I was in college and what it was like when you only had to eat at the dining hall. That sucked. So I wanted to make sure that I changed that narrative so that if I'm ever feeding them or if they ever call me up for something, that it's gonna be pretty memorable.
Yeah, and you got to be careful because they have all these nutritionists now that are making sure you got to trim the fat off of the brisket.
Listen, I'm not trimming fat off of bread. I'll trim a little bit, but I'm not trimming a lot. That's what flavor is, Pat. And everybody knows that, so I can't be serving any dry brisket. That's just not my thing.
No, well, look, you've been over there and seen these guys, and I mean, I'm just curious what because the narrative on Florida football right now is schedule so hard and everything, and but that they've got the best team they've had in a while here in terms of the players, and that Billy Napier has a level of confidence, and I'm sure you've seen it in him. But I mean, do you see a different looking football team when you're over there?
Yeah, it's funny. Because I think the narrative at last offseason, or as we went into the offseason after the loss to Florida State, was that he wasn't reloading. There wasn't a lot of guys in the building that were, that they had left over. You had, Kingsley Walking going to the league. He was a really important piece of center. You had Ricky Pearsall, who was fantastic in the games that he really went off. So, I mean, the cover was starting to get a little bit bare, and there was a lot of unknown names. I think he did a great job in the portal, which is nowadays it's a necessary evil where you have to be good in the portal to compete because guys are always transferring in and transferring out. But if you take a look at the landscape and some of the guys coming back from the team and how hard they're working, because I think that'll show once they play Miami, once that game comes. But I think he built a team that not only is going to compete, they're going to surprise a lot of the teams on that schedule for what they have right now. The schedule's tough. Make no doubt about that. But I do think they have the team to compete and to basically be in every single game they play this season.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I keep telling people, I go, everybody acts like Florida was 5-7 bad. And you are what your record is. It's the great Bill Parcells once said. But they were, I mean, obviously should have won the Missouri game. Should have won the Arkansas game. They're 7-5 right there. You should have won the FSU game. But I mean, it was like an 8-4 team that didn't get things done, and they need to get back. The little things I think are going to make a difference whether they go 9-3 or 5-7 again.
Yeah, that's true, and there's such a huge difference. And Billy will tell you himself. There's such a huge difference between having a winning record and being in a bowl game, or being on a New Year's Day bowl versus having a losing record and not being able to go to a bowl. And Florida showed that last year, and they were in so many games. I think people a lot of times fail to realize or really analyze the game. All they look at is the final score. And I get it. You're judged off the final score. But I'm pretty positive, and I know I'm one of those guys that's always going to be the homer, that's going to be the glass half full kind of guy. But
all right,
I really do like Billy Napier. I think he's a very analytical guy. He's the same guy that you see, that you talk to. He's going to be the same guy on and off the field. He's going to be the same guy on the recruiting scene. And even on his recruiting class, you can see he's making an impact there as well. There's a lot of guys that are we're in the top 5 for them, or the top 3. That's not just by happenstance. That's not just by NIL or whatever you want to add into that narrative. I think you have to like the coaching staff, and you have to believe in the vision to want to come to the University of Florida or go to a school that you think is going to be successful for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of cracked me up is all this Rashada thing was going down. I know they're getting sued, and there were. I mean, look, I think 80% of the people that think Billy Napier's on a hot seat are in the media. There's very few fans do, but I did get a few from some fans saying, "Hey, this is it for him. He's out." And then he went and he got a commitment from a 4-star guy for 2026. So I mean, they're still, and I know they've been recruiting like crazy. this last couple of weeks too.
Yeah, nobody believes that, and a lot of times the loudest ones on whether it be X or whether it be any social media website you go to, those are going to be the ones that want to be heard because they want to believe that he's going to be gone. The truth is he took over a clown show, and he's really done a good job of forming this team to fit his identity. And I think and hopefully, I mean, I certainly hope with the schedule this year. I mean, once they get into the back half of the year, they have to be hitting on all cylinders. But Florida really does have the opportunity to come out of the gate and, really go do a 5-0 or 6-0 or maybe a 5-1 or something like that. There's no doubt in my mind that Florida should be, without a question, a bowl team this season.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head. That first, you need to start out a minimum of 5-1. Yeah. Because obviously it toughens up. But look, you telling me Florida can't beat LSU? Jaden Daniels ain't playing this year. You know, can't beat FSU. Well, Jordan Travis didn't play last year either, but they lost a lot.
Right? So. Yeah, it's funny, Pat, because you take a look at that schedule. Nobody knows what these teams are going to be. If you're a number 2 ranked Texas, great. You still have to play Florida. The game still has to get played. Texas brings back a lot of guys. They have, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. They have guys that backups and guys that could play on a first team anywhere around the country. But the game still has to get played. Florida's not going to just roll over and play dead. Still, University of Florida, I think Billy Napier has really done a good job of building an explosive offense. I'm anxious to see what happens defensively here in the second year under this regime. But in the same breath is that I think the offense is going to be really explosive. There's a bona fide number 1 running back. Graham Mertz has a year under his belt, and I think the offensive line is finally solid a little bit. There was a lot of in and outs. I'm surprised at what Slaughter is at center. He played really well last year. Austin Barber's looking to up that draft status, and hopefully these guys can gel early in the season, pick up some wins. But at the end of the season, they just have to be hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, a little something about offensive line. In fact, I always like to say that. Guys that you have to make your own luck. I know that Florida didn't get a lot of breaks last year, but you got to make your own luck. And talking about that offensive line, like a guy like Austin Barber, he is in his contract year. He's in his contract. Yeah. And these guys know that. I got to play at a high level, put stuff on tape, and that'll allow me to go higher in the draft. The kid they got, Dixon. I can never remember his name. Who's may end up playing tackles. It should be really good. I think what you hit on the head with Jake Slaughter, he was surprisingly good. Guaquin really didn't play that much because of his injuries, and so him leaving was not a disaster. But Slaughter got some valuable time last year.
He did, and he played really well when he got in there. I thought he was a little bit undersized. But now as he's showing, he's added some weight. He's added a little bit of strength in the offseason, which is great to see. I'm really anxious to see how Damian George adjusts to moving inside, how he plays, right?
He belongs in there.
Yeah, he's a road grader, and that's where he belongs. So I think he has something to prove, but it's really about Austin Barber. Can he stay healthy? Can he be he has first round talent, for a day 1, day 2 talent. He really does. But he's got to make sure that it's all going well up in his head, that he doesn't get down on himself even when a bad play happens, and really showcase that talent, because that's exactly, you're going to get beat. If you're playing a tackle in the league, you're going to get beat every now and again. There's really good edge rushers. It's how you handle it afterwards. Do you keep getting beat, or is it something you handle and get better?
Yeah, well, you know what that's like, playing guard and playing tackle. They're totally different positions, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. It's funny because I played guard in college, and when I ended up playing for the Vikings, Mike Tice, my head coach, moved me to right tackle, and it's a different beast. I like to say it's more physical between inside at guard and center, and it's a little bit more of a finesse because you got, inside you got 300-pound rushers that are just really trying to bull down on your neck. On the outside, you got guys that are so quick. They're outside linebackers. They're running as fast as safeties nowadays. Some as cornerbacks. So it's a little bit more of a footwork game out there, but I think between both positions, both inside and outside, it has this right of, hey, you got to get it done. And for Florida, that was kind of a weakness. That's kind of where they, I thought Mertz could have been a lot better, but sometimes he just wasn't getting the kind of time. And injuries have a lot to do with that. continuity among the offensive line. All guys not starting the entire time. They had something to do with that. So I think if Florida can stay healthy, I think they have the guys, Pat. I don't think there's any question in my mind that they have the guys to compete in the SEC. It's just, can they stay healthy and can they believe in Billy's vision of what this offense should be?
Yeah, I'm curious to see this defense this year because you're going to be going up against some really good teams. And look, Florida has been really bad on defense the last 3 years. I mean, that's why they've had a losing record every year. They've just not been good. And I think they had 3 interceptions last year. Think about that. 3. That was a game for Tico Brown, you know?
Yeah, it was. You know, I think they're definitely emphasizing, turnovers a little bit more because if you're plus any game if you're plus turnovers in any game, you have a shot to win. Because you gotta suspect your offense might turn it over once or twice. A couple times in a game they may turn it over and you need to get one back. But if Florida's not making any headway on defense, if they're not forcing turnovers, and even more so if they're not being special in the special teams game, then they're going to struggle. They're going to count on the offense to have to score all these points, and in the SEC, it's just not a recipe for success.
No, it isn't. Absolutely. Now, since you played 22 years ago, I don't want to make you.
This is what we're doing. You're aging me here.
Has the position changed, or any positions on the offensive line changed, or have gotten a little bit bigger?
No, I think really on the offensive line, the tackle position, being a tackle, has changed. You started to see it years ago. You had a guy like Alex Brown. Alex was, one of the best edge rushers in the country. Actually was defensive player of the year, right? Alex was 265, 270, ran a 4.7, high 4.6s. But now you're starting to get these edge rushers that are 230, 235, have a lot of fast twitch to them, and they can wreck a game. This is why you see so many of these guys that are premium for when they go in the league. Like, they're starting to be paid like quarterbacks because it's something if you can get after the quarterback, or if you can wreck one play or force a pressure one play on every drive, then you're a game changer. You're a guy that deserves to get paid that kind of money, and that puts the offense in a really terrible rhythm. And it's all about rhythm when you get in the offense, when you're playing the spread, when you're doing stuff, and everybody's running no huddle nowadays. So one sack or pressure can force an offense to completely drop a drive, which is important because you only have about 7 to 8 drives a game. So if you're tackle, you got to be better because these edge rushers, I'm telling you, they've just gotten so much better, so much quicker, and so much more twitchier.
Right. Yeah. Shannon Snell coming to us on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. I wanted to ask you what it was like who told you that you had been named an All-American? And that was 2002, right?
Yeah, it was 2003. I was walking upstairs. I was going to meet with Ron Zook, our head coach at the time, and I walked up I didn't know anything, and I walked up into the office, and he kind of hit me in the chest. He hit me in the chest with the paper. He's like, "Well deserved. About time you got named something." I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And he said, "You were named first team All-American today." I was like, "Was I really?" I was like, kind of surprised. I mean, I played well this season, but he was the first one that told me.
That's good to know. I was always wondering about that. All right, it is time for us to play Yes, Nowhere, or Maybe with Shannon Snell, which is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. Go in there and tell them that you watch the podcast and you get free fries with your order. Number 1 on Yes, Nowhere, or Maybe, Shannon, in college, you could bench press more than Max Starks.
Yes, 100%.
Not even close?
Yeah, I was benching 435. Max could only do maybe 395, 405.
Oh, man. He had the long arms.
And to Max's credit, Max has really long arms. He has like a 7-foot wingspan. So that's just to his credit. I mean, so he was a strong guy, but he wasn't stronger than me.
I always wondered those questions.
Yeah.
All right, number 2 on Yes, Nowhere, or Maybe, your side dish, your go-to side dish when you have barbecue is macaroni and cheese.
100% yes. There is no doubt about it. If you come to a barbecue,
I was just guessing on that.
I don't know how you guess, but that's right. If you don't have mac and cheese at the barbecue, I'm probably leaving. So it's my number 1 side.
Well, I always tell people that you can tell if it's a good barbecue restaurant, just order the green beans. If the green beans aren't good, they haven't put any flavor in them. They aren't attention to detail, which is what we talk about with football.
Totally agree.
All right, finally, number 3 on Yes, Nowhere, or Maybe. I've been talking about this a lot lately. Number 3, college football is idiot proof because I'm still going to watch it, even though every day something comes out that makes me go, what? What are you doing now?
Pat, that's no. I gotta say no. I'm still gonna watch it, but I'm a little bit conflicted now with what's going on with NIL and the kids coming out of high school, and
Yeah.
it's almost like pay to play, and I don't understand the complete rules about with this and what's going on and what they can and can't do, but it's just gotten a little weird for me. It was foolproof. I mean, it felt like for so many years that it was foolproof and we got the same thing and it would be more exciting every season you tuned in. But now it seems like another realm. Like we entered like the matrix with all this NIL stuff and with guys leaving school and guys transferring out, and it's really tough to follow. It's not even idiot proof. I mean, it's just it's a tough deal to follow now.
Well, and now we got high school kids are going to be able to get money.
Yeah.
I've been getting it at other places. That's DJ Lagway was getting it out there, but at Texas, but now in Florida, the state of Florida, you can get it too. So
and with good reason. Look, I saw one of my ex teammates' son has got a deal with American Eagle. Now you can look him up. I don't have to call him by name, but I thought it's awesome because his son's a good looking guy and everything like that. But it's just a weird world for me because it was so looked down on if you took money, if you got a deal, if you did something else when I was in school. Like you couldn't do that because the NCAA would come down hard on you. But nowadays it's a little bit different. I applaud it. I support it. I love it for the young men that are coming out, and even the men that are in college. It's just really tough for me to see it and realize, man, that could have been me,
By the way, you should be getting a check from the NCAA because they're putting all that money for the former players and I know you were in those NCAA games.
So here's the thing there, Pat, that they're only dating it back to 2016. So 2016. I don't know why they're doing it. I wouldn't be surprised to see another lawsuit. I know the O'Bannon brothers that played out at UCLA, they were the ones that started that whole lawsuit back in the day with EA Sports, and that's why they killed the video game. So I don't know where, I don't know. I think they went back 10 years just to kind of have a set number. But yeah, if you play 2016 and beyond, you're going to get a check. So.
Wow. That's not fair.
It's not fair. But you know what? At the end of the day, I believe in progression. I believe in, being fair. And I want to see the guys before that came after me get their due. And I'm kind of glad they are. So, live and learn.
Yep, absolutely. All right. What's on the menu today? What are you cooking up today? Anything special?
Yeah. So I'm doing something for our series. It's called Tales from the Pit. You can find it on our YouTube channel. I did some smoked mac and cheese, which we talked mac and cheese earlier, just a few seconds ago. I did a barbecue street corn that has candied bacon on top. A new brisket recipe. If you haven't had brisket at Sonny's lately, go and try the brisket. It's actually one of the recipes we've been working on for a long, long time. And the bark and everything that we really work for on a brisket is fantastic. So I'm actually doing a couple recipes for that. And sure enough, come football season I got some huge plans for not only the Gators, not only the fans of the Florida Gators, but the fans of the Georgia Bulldogs, Florida State Seminoles, UCF Knights. So there's going to be some good news coming here over the next couple of weeks.
Well, please tell us about it. We'll make sure we give it all the publicity we can do because you're a good man, Shannon. You know that already.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate you, man. Anything, man. Thank you for saying that.
All right, we will be back with more of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios right after this break. Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in and on Fridays and get Nana's catfish nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Tebow Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Appreciate all of you for listening. Appreciate all of you for being part of this show. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. We're looking for a couple more, and it's a good deal that I'm offering people. I'll give you the rest of this month and July for free. Start in August, because that's when football gets started in August, and stay with us through football season. And it's a pretty good price. Trust me. You know how to get a hold of me. If you're interested in being a sponsor and being a part of this, and I hope you're enjoying it. I have fun doing it. I know that I feel very comfortable with Zach, and Zach's doing a great job. So this thing's going to keep going, man. We're going to keep plugging away. And I actually have my daughter out selling sponsorships. So good for me. Put her to work. All right, let us get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And as you know, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of family law and workers' compensation. If you're a loyal listener of this show, you know who we are by now. If not, Google the firm, check out the reviews, and hear what our clients have to say. Ken and Jennifer can be reached 24/7 via call or text at 352-339-9920, 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipke. It's always great too with Ken, because he's always texting me different things, and it's like having a conversation with somebody who knows a lot about sports, and he's really good. And that's we appreciate he and Jennifer for not only being part of this but being part of the Bob Dooley Invitational this year as a sponsor too. All right, let's get to the 3 things. Last night, Oklahoma and Texas played. I watched just a little bit of it. It was painful because, both those teams beat Florida, although Florida beat one of them. And Oklahoma won again. And I'm like, they handled them. They handled Texas. Because I thought, well, now you're going to see what Texas has got. Well, no, you know what it was? Champion. I don't even know if anybody said this. Champions do what champions do. And they are champions, man. They're going for a 4-peat. And imagine what this is going to be like. So you've got the national champion and the national runner-up, no matter what happens, and the national third-place team, all in the same conference. And the national fifth-place team, all in the same conference, Alabama. So it's just going to be incredible in this conference. But I'm a big believer that steel sharpens steel, and that's why you saw that Florida baseball team when they got into the to play, when they were playing Oklahoma State and teams like that, different level of athlete. I think personally, and Jeff said the same thing to me. He said we were just a little more athletic than them. If you execute and you got better athletes, you can win. But that's what Oklahoma's got. They've got unbelievable power, unbelievable pitching. They get the pitcher from Oklahoma State. Boy, that's got to sting a little bit, doesn't it? If you're an Oklahoma State fan, and but again, you get to host a regional in baseball. you get to the College World Series in softball, it's not like you've had a bad year. Some people will tell you have. But Oklahoma, I'm sure, is going to win this thing. And although you never know. Best 2 out of 3, but usually it's the team that wins the first game. I saw this stat the other day, and it said that it was on the college softball, and it said the winner of the first game wins 93% of the time, wins the whole thing 93% of the time. Or wins the next game 93% of the time, whatever it was. But I was just like, well, that can't be true. The most it could be is 50%. Because if 2 teams win, they're going to play each other. One's going to lose. So it's 50%. I'm not explaining myself well on that, so I'm going to get away from it. All right, let's go to, on Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. Number 2, and that is how the WNBA is turning into pro wrestling. Now, we talked a little bit about this last week. Caitlin Clark getting hammered by people giving her elbows and this and that. And it's been a little bit out of line, but they're trying to show her. And look, a lot of people are going to make this racial. I'm staying away from that. But there are people making that argument. I just think they want to show her who's in charge. And but now it's gotten out of control. When you have people showing up at for another team's games, in the hotel, and getting into confrontations with them. And they had to get security. Kennedy Carter was getting harassed, and this is really a dangerous thing to be doing. In the first place, I think what they're doing has been a little bit too much in trying to, all right, we're going to push you around. Now, look, you watch basketball, you know how you can push people around. You can give them a little subtle elbow. Men's basketball, we've seen little flicks occasionally, but just beating up the girl, is I think taking it way too far. But it's still their arena and it's their game, and do not bother them that way. Men, women, children, whatever, when they're trying to play sports. And they're trying to show up for a game. It's just it's crazy. All right, number 3, finally on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. This is a good time for golf to be coming on, because we are close to the end of most things. Maybe playoffs, everything like that. We'll talk about all those later, but it's a good time for golf to get good. And the Memorials this week, which is always fun to watch. Great course. And obviously it's Jack's tournament. Billy Horschel won it last year. So can't wait to watch that. And then you turn around the next week and you've got the US Open at Pinehurst. So it's going to be really a lot of fun. By the way, the Memorial's on CBS if you're looking for that. But it's just going to be a lot of fun for those of us who love the sport. When we do love the sport, sorry. People who don't get it, I don't have a problem with that. If you don't get golf, you think golf's stupid. Tom Petty used to sing all the time about how much he hated golf courses. He did with the Wilburys. Who was the other one? I was trying to remember. Oh, George Carlin, who's one of my favorite comedians. Just rip golf courses all the time. I get it, but I'm still going to play as much as I can because I love the sport. We'll see how that goes, though. How does she know? Look, Kelsey, of course. It's always Kelsey. Is always calling me during my podcast. All right, so that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's move on to this, that, and the other. It is brought to you by Ironwood Golf Course, home of the Bob Dooley. It is brought to you by Darshackow Insurance. It is brought to you by Ballyhoo Grill. Appreciate all of them very much. All right, this, on this, that, and the other, was that we are just about through. We still have track going on this weekend. Florida baseball, we don't know how far it's going to go, but that's it. That's it. The NBA is going to be over. I can't get into Major League Baseball until they get near the playoffs. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of sad this time of year, although you would think spend more time with Kelsey, and spend more time with your family. And we got a big vacation plan and everything, but still, that part is I can't wait for football season. And that's why I get kind of freaked out a little bit. I'm like, God, how much longer is it till football season? And it used to be that you had that good speed bump in SEC media days, and that's what I always called it. People would call it the unofficial beginning of football season, and I go, no, it's not. But they haven't even started practice yet, and they're not going to start for 2 more weeks in a lot of cases. Some years, I think it was 2 weeks one year. I know that before they even started practice. It's a speed bump, okay? But I'm not going to be attending it. Obviously, I will watch it, some of it. And it'll be interesting to see the news that comes out of there. But I just want to get to the games, man. There's so many great games being scheduled, and I can't wait for it. But then I get to the other, and I said, Pat, you need to pump the brakes a little bit. You don't know. You are way near the end of your life than the beginning. We know that. That's facts. That's not even opinion. If I lived as old as my dad, I would still, be on the back nine, or actually I'd be on like 17, 16 maybe. So pump the brakes a little bit and try to enjoy the summer is what I'm saying to me. Get out and play more golf, even more than you were playing. Going down to play Adena tomorrow, so that'll be fun. But play, do things, read more. You don't know how much time you got left on this earth, and every morning you wake up should be happy. I think that's the way all of us should be. I think sometimes we worry too much about, and again, I'm not being preachy. I am telling this to myself. Sometimes worry too much about when's the next game. I can't believe, what are we going to do? We got nothing to watch. Oh, okay. Watch a movie. Go outside for a walk. I'm going to try to do that. I am going to try to have my best summer. Now, ideally, it doesn't start for a while. Baseball goes all the way to the College World Series, and then it starts like in July. But we'll see what happens there. Anyway, that is this, that, and the other. Brought to you by Ironwood, by Darshak Insurance, and by Ballyhoo Grill. Let's get to our Swamp Games of the Weekend. Brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant. Appreciate the young men over there, Ryan and Kyle, and all the great work they do. Appreciate them being out at the golf tournament. And they've got all kinds of specials. And this is a place to be if you want to watch games, because there's so much going on this weekend. We're just going to give you the big stuff, though, okay? Let's start with the Swamp. Let's start with baseball. Baseball is on ESPN both days for Florida. So they play Saturday at 2 and Sunday at 2:30. Now, we don't know what time they're going to play Monday if they have a Monday game, because they have to wait and let everything see what's going to be best for them. You got to figure that out. Softball, as you know, this might be the last game tonight. It's at 8:00, whatever. I don't think I'm going to watch it. So you've got those two games, and we'll see how Florida does, but they're both on ESPN, so that's kind of cool. But I'm not going to give you all the college baseball games that are on. You guys will find them. I know that. You're very smart people. Okay, so also tonight we have the NBA finally kicking off after 2 days rest, 3 days rest, whatever it was. Dallas at Boston, 8:30 on ABC, and then Sunday it's on at 8 on ABC. The get-in price, I like to give you the get-in prices. Now, I'm not sure how accurate it is, because I can guarantee you can find a ticket for cheaper. But just to get in, if you go through Ticketmaster or StubHub or whatever, $615 for this game. I might go see a Beatles reunion show for that if they were all still alive. I think that's the line. That's the only thing I would go see. And I obviously don't. I can say that because I'll never have to see it. I'd want to see it, but I'll never see it because half of the Beatles have passed away. But $615 for a game? Maybe not. All right, let's give you some baseball. Saturday, Phillies at Mets. They're level with the Phillies at Mets and Dodgers and Yankees this week. Phillies at Mets is on at 1:10 on Fox on Saturday. Dodgers Yankees at 7:15 on Fox as well, and that's Saturday. And then Sunday, they play again, Mets at Phillies on that is on at 10 a.m. Now, that may be a mistake. Please tell me, is it a little league thing or maybe they're going to a different cut? I don't know. But it says, according to what I saw today, Sunday, Mets at Phillies at 10 a.m. on ESPN. Cool. Not that I'm going to get up and watch it, and then the Dodgers are playing the Yankees again, 7:00 on ESPN. All right, there you go. So that's the good stuff. And of course, the Memorial's on all weekend. This weekend it'll be on CBS. They also have it on Peacock if you have Peacock. I don't know that the Memorial's worth Peacock for me. Now, again, we get Peacock. I just don't know if I want to do that. It's just me. Just sit there because you know it is when you turn on streaming service. It's not like you have access. You can't go back to something and then takes 5 minutes to get it loaded up. So I'm not sure that the U.S. Open, Masters, they're all worth Peacock or whatever streaming service they're on. Anyway, all right. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. Appreciate all of our great listeners. Appreciate Zach for doing a great job. We'll be back with another show on Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley, and I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.